Hey, this is Neil again, broadcasting from the bunker. Is there any intelligent life still out there? That's how people look at you in Brampton. Jehovah's Witnesses, wake up and realize that your governing body, your so called governing body, is nothing more than a elitist little club of glorified nerds. I'm going to stop referring to myself as Neil the Apostate because A, I don't like labels, and B, it's their word that they made up. Well, they didn't make it up, they dug it out of the ancient Greek, and it's called, it's in ancient Greek, it means something like a defector, someone who leaves a religion or a country or whatever. You know, they probably think it means defective. They think we're defective. That's why they call us mentally diseased, which, by the way, in my opinion, they should be sued for because that's slander and libel. But anyway, it's their word. I was researching it earlier, and I don't think it appears in any other Bible except theirs, the New World Translation, the New World Order translation of the Bible. It's only they're the only ones that use it. They're the only ones that have it in their Bible. It's not in any other Bible. If my memory serves, I looked this up a while ago, but yeah, I think that's the case. And like I said, I don't believe in labels. You know, I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Jew. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a new Democrat or an old Democrat or a Republican. You know, labels are just used to control people. You know, put people into cubby holes and make everything nice and neat and tidy and orderly. Order must be maintained. You know, that kind of thing. Some folks who watch these videos might think might take me as an anarchist or you know, a terrorist even. You can call me whatever you like. Just don't call me late for dinner. Um, yeah, that's about it for the introduction. Um, Fear mongering. I'd like to talk about an experience or something that I saw on TV a few years back. And the rest of this video is not going to have anything to do with Watchtower. I think I'll give them a break. I've been ragging on them for a while, and I'm going to give them a bit of a break, give them a moment to gasp for air. This is about fear mongering in general. Mongering, particularly by like the media and the governments. Like Chinese balloons are coming to attack us, shit like that. But a few years back, I saw a report. I was watching the news. It wasn't like a big report. I was watching the news on one of the major Canadian television networks, one of the big three, Canadian TV networks. I don't remember exactly which one, and I wouldn't name it even if I did because I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in more trouble, that is, than I already am. But if you're Canadian, you'll know which three I'm talking about. It was one of the big three. It wasn't some rinky-dink little station. It was one of the major networks. I was just watching the news, and they were, reporting and this and that, and then all of a sudden they bring up North Korea, because this is back in the day when North Korea was still a threat. Now we don't hear about it at all. So apparently it's not a threat anymore. Apparently like maybe Kim Jong Un became a pacifist, or converted to Buddhism. I don't know, but apparently after all that hubbub about North Korea and their like 8 nuclear missiles compared to America's 10,000 nuclear warheads, you know. Um, Apparently they're not a threat anymore because we're not hearing anything about them anymore. Isn't that interesting? Um, but anyway, so back in the day when North Korea was a big deal, when North Korea was trending, let's say, back when the North Korean threat was trending, um, they, they report one of the anchor people, the journalist there, said, you know what? I mean, like out of the blue. If North Korea ever launches a nuclear missile against Seattle, of all places, Seattle, um, why anyone would want to nuke Seattle is beyond me. I mean, it might actually be an improvement. Real estate values in Seattle might actually go up. But yeah, if North Korea decides to nuke Seattle of all places, the missile could, if the missile malfunctioned, it could stray off course and hit anywhere within a like 500, 600 mile radius around Seattle, which I believe Vancouver, Canada, is within that circle of error. And they were telling people this. They were saying if North Korea ever, by the way, folks, if North Korea ever launches a nuke against Seattle, it might go off course and hit Vancouver. And then I bet like 500,000, citizens of Vancouver just shit their pants and probably have insomnia and are walking around with adult diapers down to this day because of that little snippet that they reported. If a North Korean missile is launched at Seattle and goes off course, it might hit Vancouver. And I thought that's interesting. And a couple of days later, I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, let me do the math. Let me do literal math here, and I did. I literally did the math. And if any of you out there are, I know there's a lot of people who are, allergic to math, but bear with me. Don't turn off just yet. Don't switch off just yet. I'll make it short, quick, and painless. And it involves pi, the number everybody loves now since that movie came out. Life of Pi, the little boy with the tiger and the boat. I don't know. So now everybody loves pi. So it involves pi. So it's gonna be fun, folks. It's gonna be fun. But yeah, I did the math. I thought, you know what? Okay, if a North Korean missile is aimed at Seattle and it goes off course by anywhere within like 600-mile radius of Seattle, what is the square mileage? What is the area of error where it could land? Right? I did the math. It's not that complicated. How do you calculate the area of a circle? It's pi r squared, right? The radius squared times pi. Okay, what's the radius? They said it was 600 miles, right? 600-mile radius. Square that. That's 360,000 miles. That's 360,000. 600 squared is 360,000. You multiply that by pi, which is 3 point blah 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 blah. Numbers that go on and on and on. Supposedly to infinity. But we'll just take it at 3, be conservative. We'll say 3. So 3 times 360,000 is what, 900, just over a million. It's just over a million. So that circle of error where that missile could land if it malfunctioned is 1 million. Again, we'll err on the side of caution here. We'll be conservative, and we'll say it's a million square miles. Okay. 1 million square miles. Now, how big is Vancouver? I mean, if you draw a circle, you know, when you're in school, you know, geometry, you put a little pin on a piece of paper, you tie it to a string, and then tie the other end to a pencil and draw, and you have a perfect circle. Well, if you did that around Seattle for a 600-mile radius, okay, Vancouver would be a tiny little dot within that circle, a tiny little dot, okay? And I've been to Vancouver. I live just outside Toronto now, Brampton, you know, where people look at you like this. But I've been to Vancouver, and it's smaller. I'm pretty sure it's smaller than Toronto. I mean, I can walk across the downtown core of Toronto in about 20 minutes. So I would say the downtown core of Vancouver is probably 1 square mile. It's probably 1 square mile. So 1 square mile out of 1 million square miles. You see where I'm going with this? I mean, these people weren't lying. They weren't outright lying. But they were leaving out a glaring fact, which is just like lying. Right? You leave out some really, really pertinent fact, and it's just like lying. They failed to tell people that, yeah, a missile could stray and hit Vancouver, but there's a 1 in a million chance of that. 1 in a million. Once hitting a spot 1 square mile out of 1 million square miles where that missile could land, anywhere in that 1 million square miles. Isn't that irresponsible? Isn't that irresponsible journalism and fear mongering? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And if you think about it, the odds of it happening are even less, because first you have to assume that the leadership, half the leadership of North Korea has gone batshit crazy and has decided to launch a suicide attack against the United States, a virtual kamikaze attack. Because you know what will happen to North Korea if they ever launch even one nuke against America, right? North Korea will cease to exist. It'll be a glowing hole in the ground. It will be a glass skating rink for the next 10,000 years. It will cease to exist. So it's a suicide attack. And it can't just be initiated by one person. You know, I don't think Kim Jong-un has a big red button on his desk that he can push, whenever his girlfriend refuses to give him a blowjob, and he launches a nuke. I mean, there's a process in every country that possesses nuclear weapons. We've seen the movies, you get this thing out of the suitcase with the codes, and you got to tell the president and the generals are all. There's a chain of command. There's a process. One person just can't push a button and launch a nuke. So you would have to assume that like half the leadership of North Korea, who's required, part of a big chunk of the leadership of North Korea, who would be required to do this, to initiate this, has completely gone collectively batshit crazy and decided to launch a suicide attack. That's the first thing. The second thing is you've got to assume that the missile's going to malfunction. Okay, now given 20th century ancient Soviet technology, ancient communist China, communist Russia, under communism, quality control was not the best. There's a story of one American fighter pilot in the Vietnam War. He's an interesting guy. He actually gives motivational speeches now. You can see it on YouTube. His name is Steve Ritchie, Ritchie. And if you look it up, type in Steve Ritchie USAF, U.S. Air Force. Because if you just type in Steve Ritchie, you'll get some guy who invented some special kind of pinball machine or something. So you type in Steve Ritchie USAF. And anyway, on his very first mission over North Vietnam, he had 3 Soviet-built SA-2 surface-to-air missiles launched at it. 3 of them. These things are the size of a telephone pole. They travel at 3.5 times the speed of sound. They've got a massive warhead. He had 3 of these launched at his jet, and they all missed. They all missed. So back in the day of the communism, Soviet Union, communist China, quality was not the best. But we're in the 21st century now. China is not hardcore communist anymore. They're a major economic power that produces massive amounts of consumer goods. I mean, 80% of the stuff we buy is made in China, and it's quality stuff. It's quality stuff. It's not it's not cheap stuff. It's it's quality stuff. So you can assume that like a modern nuclear missile, whether it comes from Chinese technology or Russian technology, which is probably where North Korean missiles come from, you can bet that a modern nuke that North Korea possesses is going to be way more reliable than the old Soviet era equipment. So the odds of it malfunctioning are incredibly slim, incredibly slim. So first you have to assume that the top tier of North Korean leadership has gone batshit crazy and decided to launch a nuke against Seattle, of all places. And then that the missile, this modern 2024 state of the art piece of technology, malfunctions, and these are new missiles too. They're new. We're not talking about an old missile that's been sitting around for 30 years. And something like that, the electronics can degrade, and that can cause a malfunction. But you're talking about a brand new, state of the art missile, and you're assuming that it malfunctions, And then, if those two conditions have been met, which are highly improbable, then even if it does malfunction, there's still a one in a million chance that it will land on Vancouver. So the odds, if you count all of those conditions, the odds of a North Korean nuclear missile straying and hitting Vancouver are like 1 in 100 million, maybe, But they didn't mention that, right? That's just irresponsible and disgusting, and it's just pure fear mongering. And like I said, I'll bet there are people who live in Vancouver to this day who are still shitting their pants over that. I don't know. Am I talking out my ass here? Is this some crazy conspiracy theory? I actually saw this on the news. Is it just a wild opinion? You tell me. You be the judge. Anyway, have a better one.